No, I have one. So it's Vipassana meditation. I've been meaning to let you know that. I love yoga, but I haven't had a practice of yoga. I wish I did. So, before I talk about power, I want to recognize that this weekend many of us are colliding with the reality of fatherhood. All of us have fathers. Some of us are fathers. Father's Day is set aside to honor those beautiful people who have set aside their lives to take care of their children. And, people who've invested and given their children what they need to grow. It's a joyful day. The thing I also want to say is that I also recognize that biological fathers are men, but I know that many times that fathers can show up in any gender. So this is a joyful day that can be bittersweet if our fathers have shoveled off the mortal coil. And so we may be mourning the loss of good fathers, and we may be mourning not knowing who our fathers were, because we never got a chance to know them. So I'm just going to ask us to spend a moment getting in touch with the Father within, and know that the Father in each of us loves us deeply and unconditionally. So just close your eyes. I'm going to take us in there for just a couple of seconds. The Father within loves us unconditionally. Thank you to our fathers. And what a gift this Center for Spiritual Living in Antelope Valley is. What a gift this sanctuary is. And thank you for inviting me to be part of this co-creative process of bringing this service into being today, calling forth what flows into consciousness. This isn't just me standing up here. This is all of you calling forth what needs to be said and circulating that in consciousness. So today we're exploring power and what we've learned about limitation, strong will, and love. So as we know, Ernest Holmes said, he introduced his radio show every week with, there is a power for good in the universe, and it's available to anyone, and we can use this power for good in our lives. So we perceive power as greater than we are, but the truth is, that the way we use it is by knowing we are that power and accept it as us. We're merely learning how to cooperate with it, to get in alignment with that power that is in us so we can use it. Power always is us, and we cannot add or subtract to it. Add to it or subtract from it. Power is. God is. We are. Power is not injected into mind. We allow power to flow out of mind. We don't put it in, we circulate it. The principle of power exists, and we use it. This is also true of mind. We call our teaching the science of mind. Mind makes things out of itself, by itself, becoming the thing it makes. Man is not the creator. We are users of that which already exists. To use that power, we only need to believe that we are one with God. We are one with God, not just the time that we spend here in service, not just the time sitting on our cushion in meditation, but we're one with God when we're brushing our teeth, driving to work, sleeping, all the time, all the time. And it's not what we think. It's not that we think we're one with God. It's that we know we're one with God. It's not that we think it, it's that we know it. We all possess this power to use. Our teaching tells us that we use this power through mind. Teaching is called the science of mind. That thinking is really the movement of our minds upon consciousness. That we are the thinker. No one else thinks for us. We create our day. So we can change our thoughts. We can change our day. We can choose the tendency of that which we're going to be observing. And it's so important when deciding to use power that we follow what Jesus says in Matthew 6:33. Seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all these things shall be added to you. So we just want to focus on knowing that we are integrated in the eternal love, and just trust that everything else is just falling into place. Just trust that. If we direct our energy in what we fear might happen or what we worry about, then we're putting ourselves in a perception of separation from that which is God. So say we're in a kind of uncomfortable situation where we're feeling that separation. Instead of worrying about it, try this instead. Practice mindfulness and stop the uncomfortable feeling or the activity within you for that moment. It's kind of like that stop action special effect where you're in this action movie and then everything stops, the camera rotates around, everything's stopping. Just in a moment, in a second, just feel that. Everything stands as though it's frozen. Now suppose, having stopped that activity within us, that we change our intention, and we choose to observe something else. We choose to feel something else. And just for beginners, let's say we're going to do a spiritual mind treatment to see the highest good unfolding in that situation. So in calm confidence, we get that mental attitude that never wavers, and we be sure, and we know it's going to be done for our highest good. So no matter how long we hold ourselves in that knowing, in that kind of stop action still moment, whether it's a second, a minute, or an hour, when we release that moment with our shift in consciousness from worry to affirmative prayer, and that activity becomes fluid again, what we're going to see, what we observe, is that the situation is compelled to fulfill what it was that we said we wanted. What we said we wanted to see. We focus on what we want and it demonstrates. That is our power. So I want to give you an example from someone who really used power. About 5 years ago, I had the privilege to spend time with Joe. He's a fierce, one-eyed Native American gentleman who was on death row. And he's given me permission to share his story. He was sentenced to death here in California with absolutely no chance of changing that sentence. And he told me that while he was on death row, he stayed focused on his reawakened realization of God and love. So he focused his attention on God and love. His relationship with Spirit deepened. So while doing his hard time, he practiced oneness with God. Years passed and he started to do good work in the prison. He was able to take his focus away from those daily bars on his cell, the prison food, the guards, his being in prison. He was able to know that he was a free man. He was able to focus on God and love. Use power to focus on what he wanted, God and love. He took his focus away from those inmates who were causing trouble, and he chose to see the namaste love in each one of them. He saw that there was a power for good in the universe, and he used it. And eventually, he got his pardon from the governor. His sentence was commuted to this absolutely never going to be able to change death sentence to life. And as he was continuing to focus on God and love, doing good in the prison, he eventually got out of prison, which is when I met him. And now he spends his time talking to groups about his focus on God and love. Now, that is a tremendous example of using the power that we each have He went from a death sentence to being out in the world talking about loving God.
Woo!
Yeah, it's pretty amazing, you know. And it's not just available to him. We can all do this, all right? This power for good in the universe is the answer to prayer. It is the miracle of life itself. And even if we sometimes feel little or alone, the power that we are never goes away. It never went away for Joe. And he knew it, even though he was sentenced to death. The power back of reality remains forever, and it's changeless. It's there for us to use as we align ourselves with it. Now, how can we believe that this power exists when we can't see it? Well, can you see electricity? Can you see how the volumes of information are stored in those little chips in the computer there? Can we see the internet? How do we believe that magnets work or that gravity exists? We just do, right? Has anybody ever seen love, kindness, compassion? So we choose to see the invisible by recognizing when it comes into form. Spirit takes form through the power of the Word acting on it. We have this power. It's ours to use. So our teaching is so simple that sometimes it eludes us, you know? The questions may seem complicated, but the answer is simple. We are that power. It is our choice to see this power in form. We know it, and we use it. We focus power on what we want. We focus it on the positive. This power operates in our living Word. It is our focus of our energy. We can't see it, taste it, handle it. We can feel it. We can feel it. When they were singing, couldn't you feel it when the gong was going? Couldn't you feel it? That vibration, that high knowing of life. It really isn't the words that we use. What we're cultivating is that conviction of the power that operates through our word, through our consciousness. It's our direction of energy. And when we combine thought with feeling, intellect with emotion, and add this recognition that God is all that there is, we have access to that infinite power. And it's irresistible. Irresistible. Nothing can come in its way. So we use this power by seeing things in a different way, in a new way. Our greatest use of power is when we can sit still and be such a clear channel for God's love, God's power, as us flowing into our lives, into our households, into our families, into our relationships, into business, and the nation. This power is impersonal, and it's available for everyone to use. Joe, who is under a death sentence, could use it. It doesn't care what kind of car you drive, where you live, how healthy you are. The power for good is available to everyone, and everyone can use it. Everyone. So how can we strengthen our ability to use this power for good? By opening ourselves to being that transparent channel for the flow of power. So I invite you to develop a daily spiritual practice of sitting quietly. Now this may sound a little different, just listen carefully. So sitting quietly and giving out no human love to anyone. But on the other hand, having no negative emotions. Not hate, envy, jealousy, revenge, or indifference. Just be. Just sit in consciousness. Don't attach any labels to what's arising of good or bad. Just sit quietly for a moment and let the power of God just flow. Divine love flow through our consciousness, to our spiritual community, to the Antelope Valley, the state, the nation, finally the world. Just sit in it. So to me, that feels like being in neutral. You know, I take my spiritual gears. I take my spiritual gears and I disengage mind. I've given no love. I haven't withheld love. I've not been unloving. I've merely been still in it and observed that power is eternal and it's always available. So what I've come to find is that just by sitting in that flow, I can realize that as I observe that power in circulation, that we can direct it. If we can observe it, we can change it. We can use it because we're all in that power. We all have that power. Just by being in consciousness through our spiritual practice, we realize God is no longer theory, something outside of ourselves, something in a book. We acquire a deep interior awareness of God. We know that we have power, peace, grace, light, beauty, life, joy, wholeness, and perfection, because we're in that flow of power of God. So concentration or mindfulness is merely the practice of bringing it to a focus. We weed out the undesirable thoughts so that our remaining thoughts have more power. The thoughts where we're focusing on what we want, we're directing power. So Ernest Holmes kind of compared it to electricity. A huge energy stream is flowing slowly. It's measured as voltage in electricity. Now follow me. If you're an engineer, you can correct me. I hope I got this right. But when the same stream, through the technology of the coil, is reduced to a fine intensity, it's called amperage. That concentration does for the mind what the coil does for electricity. A particular thought is strengthened in power and intensity by the removal of unrelated thoughts, which can otherwise dissipate our energy. So it's okay to have those thoughts that we're not really interested in, but we just let them go because we focus on the thoughts we want. So concentration of thought is not an effort to compel power, but it's a desire to allow power to flow, permitting that stream of creative energy into definite form. So we're not trying to make something happen. We're not struggling with it. We're stepping back and just knowing and allowing it to happen, knowing that it's done. So from that place in this teaching, we come to a great realization that right where we are, exactly where we are, God is in all of His power. And from that place of spiritual authority, knowing that God lives life through me and as me, I feel blessed that I came into this teaching with really strong will. I don't know about you, but I came in thinking that I should control things. I thought surrendering to God and allowing God meant I had to give up my direction, my power. Now what I know is that there is no separation from my power and God's power. But I can't tell you how many times I've released control from my vocabulary. I came to love my strong will. I came to love my ability to focus my concentration. So I re-languaged it. Ernest Holmes says it perfectly in his article, Imagination, Will, and Willpower. The important role that will plays is in decision to keep thought poised long enough to permit the law to operate. Okay? I'm going to repeat that because this is the difference between me controlling things and allowing my power to express. The important role that will plays is in the decision to keep thought poised long enough to permit the law to operate, to permit God to operate in our lives. I use my strong will, my power, to make a selection from the confusion or the negativity in my mind that's racing around to something, anything that vibrates in alignment with my true self. I'm not at the effect of that racing mind. I know that I can just allow God. I make that decision. Wallace Wattles, in his The Science of Getting Rich, says, when you know what to think and do, then you must use your will to compel yourself to think and do right things. That is the legitimate use of will in getting what you want, to use it in holding yourself to the right course. So instead of beating myself up for having those negative thoughts, I just remember that Japanese proverb, fall down 7 times, get up 8.
Amen.
Okay? It's like, I just allow myself to focus on it, and it's okay if I get off. I just bring myself back to it.
That's right.
So using an internet metaphor, I use my strong will to delete my life's browser's bookmarks on doubt, fear, worry. I make my life's browser favorites: joy, love, harmony, light, beauty, grace, and intelligence.
Nice.
I stay focused on my highest good, and I continue to awaken to the only thing that is, God. So God expresses us through the use of power for good, to expand in consciousness, to become more of who we really are. We are this power. And there's a deep-seated agreement between infinite loving presence and us. It's true. Ernest Holmes says that there is one spirit incarnated in everyone, an immortal presence, forever expanding everything, causing everything to grow. There is a divine urge in our own minds to grow, to expand, to break down the barriers of previous limitations right now, to ever widen our experience. This persistent urge is a divine influence and an irresistible force, and constitutes the greatest impulse of human experience. It is our power. So in my practice of my spiritual practice of prayer and meditation, I've come to know that this great impulse doesn't have to be all lights, beautiful music, and a burning bush. Okay? It's merely me stepping out of my prison of my own making, that place of limiting beliefs, and stepping into that circulation of the power that is me already. My highs have become my plateaus. So it's like I used to go like this. Now, I come up to my highs and they're my plateaus, and so I'm going higher and higher. It's an ever expansion into my awareness of my spiritual magnificence. There's never any losing power in God. Never. Because God is. God doesn't take power from me to give to you. Beginner's mind or learning this stuff isn't less than. It's being willing to be completely in a different situation outside of my box and accept that God flows through me in a way that maybe I haven't known myself before. So I'm affirming that it's not the bottom rung that I step onto when I learn a new way of being, when I learn how to use this power. Instead, I'm following in the universe's footsteps. That's what we're all doing. The universe does this all the time, unfolding into a greater expression of God. And I am living from glory to greater glory, always being that masterpiece, revealing who I am. And so the presence that is around and within me is around and within all of us. The law that I am using, you can use. What we do is to consciously align ourselves with that power, to believe in it, to become convinced that it's true, and to have implicit faith and confidence in its action. I'm going to end with this quote from Neville from his book, Your Faith is Your Fortune. I know when I first read it, I knew he was writing directly to my heart. Stop asking yourself whether or not you are worthy or unworthy to claim yourself to be that which you desire to be.
Amen.
You will be condemned by the world only as long as you condemn yourself. You don't need to work on anything. The works are finished. The principle by which all things are made is eternal. You are this principle. Your awareness of this being is everlasting law. You have never expressed anything that you were not aware of being, and you never will. Assume that the consciousness that you wish to desire to express. Claim it until it becomes a natural manifestation. Feel it and live within that feeling until you make it your nature. So right now, today, let's affirm there is a power for good in the universe and I'm using it. Let's say it. There is a power for good in the universe and I'm saying it. I'm using it. Thank you. I'm going to let Renee come up. Isn't he great? I'm staying for that meditation. You guys I strongly suggest it. Yes. Okay, so I invite you to go within. Very powerful today, I can tell. Just knowing that God is love, God is good, that this power is God, that God is all that there is, that right where I am, right where we are, divine intelligence is, that God as me knows what to do, what turns to take. I am in partnership with the universal power. Yes. The mind that creates everything. I am love. I am God, expressing in a unique way. I know that this power, this universal mind, all of these qualities of God, peace, joy, love, beauty, light, harmony, intelligence, peace, is mine. It's ours. It's ours today. So I know, and I now speak the word for all of us, that perfect health is ours. That the power that is universal is ours to use. And we use it. We use it, and it manifests in our lives as divine right relationships, as the perfect career, as prosperity now, as perfect health now, as divine creativity expressing through us now, as a beautiful and glorious spiritual path, easily and gracefully follow. I bless this journey. I bless this life that we live. There is power in our lives. There is power in living. There is power in knowing who and what we are. And I know that we easily allow that to express. We easily allow it to circulate and to flow. This is not a struggle. This is not something we have to do. This is something that we're just going to be. So I know this week that we are blessed. We perceive this. We know it. We're not downing it. We're not wishing it. We're not wanting it. We just know it. We allow it. So I know that the Center for Spiritual Living here in the Antelope Valley is that beacon for power circulating, for life. It is a sanctuary where we can be in agreement, in alignment with that power of God. And we change the planet today. We change it by knowing this. It radiates out through us in all 6 directions, north, east, south, west, up, down, rippling out. The planet is so much richer because we are here today, in agreement here. So I'm grateful for that perfect health. I'm grateful for those divine relationships. I'm grateful for the prosperity. I'm grateful for our beautiful jobs, our careers. I'm grateful for our lives. And just in that gratitude, in this high vibration that we can feel in our bodies as it's those gongs. We feel that oneness as we hear Deanna sing. I just release my living word into the law from which it came. We affirm this by saying, and so it is.